It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and laws and the ink stains that have dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me. Or something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rustling towel and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Grateful to have you for a Monday night smack, Monday night madness. We're grateful to be back on the air first time this week, and we are just so happy that the Europeans didn't kidnap him and throw him in a gulag. We're grateful to have the one and only Jeemes Akers back with us tonight. Buddy, it is good to see you. I guess they could only stand so much of you, and they sent you back over here, didn't they?
Yep, they had their fill of me, and so they sent me hustling back across the ocean.
Well, did you paddle, or did you come across with plane, or did you swim? I'm just curious. You and you at your age, you're probably fit enough to swim it. Now, Johnson would have swum it. He would have tried to swim the whole thing, but you probably caught a plane back.
I caught a plane back, Brad would have Elvis helping him out.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Johnson would bring Elvis's plane. He would get Elvis's plane, and that's exactly right. There's no doubt about that. Well, man, seriously, I'm glad you made it back. We missed you when you were gone. The show's just not the same every week without your input, and we're so happy to have you tonight. Folks, let me just say this. We're going to talk for a little bit. We got Leslie Millwee coming up behind James right after this tonight. We've got an extended Mac Files. We've got some video to show you, a lot to talk about. Jeemes, I don't even know where to start. I do want to ask you, since we usually bring you on to talk about international things, what's your take on the Ukraine-Russia situation? Trump seems to have made more progress than Biden has made in 4 years. Well, the war's been going on 3 years. Biden didn't ever bring Putin to at least even discuss the possibility of peace. I know both players are not perfect, and I'm very aware that, we're not dealing with a fair table here on either side. But what's your take on this? Do you think Trump can pull this off to get these two from killing each other? Because you basically got 1 million people dead on each side, and I find it intriguing, all these people that are trying to lift up Zelensky as some kind of war hero, that he stood up to the great Russian bear, and he's making alliances with our enemies, and he's basically, with his mouth, sort of like Yasser Arafat did, telling the world he wants peace, and then going behind our back and telling Europe, blank you to America, after he's basically extorted us for $350 billion and then trying to renege now, I understand, on this mineral rights bill. And just curious what you think about all that.
Well, everything's becoming so interconnected. I think Trump was making a bit of headway and thought that he could use that as leverage for Putin to insist his Iranian friends make a deal of some sort, and so there's, it's all become bundled together. We have, personally, I think Ukraine's going to become an after show here, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, because there are now 3 carrier battle groups that are within striking range of the Middle East. You have America has transferred a ton of weaponry with the biggest bombs in our inventory to the island of Diego Garcia, which is within striking range of the Iranian, all of their nuclear production, and unless Trump is just making absolutely empty threats, look for something to happen in Iran here in the next couple weeks, and man, all bets are off after that happens.
Well, it's funny. We talked about that on the radio show today on K-Star Talk Radio. It's a story that nobody is talking about, but over the weekend, Iran rejected his overture to meet face-to-face. He wanted to talk to these mullahs to try to get them to come together and get their senses about this nuclear weapon, and he offered an olive branch, and they basically told him, blank you, and you're absolutely right. He basically said it over the weekend. He said there's going to be bombings like they've never seen before if they do not straighten up and knock this stuff off about trying to get a nuke. We're gonna stop them. And that's Israel. That will affect Israel. That will affect Greece. That will affect the Middle East. Like Greece and Israel are growing very close right now, as they should be. It's a very positive sign because Turkey is basically, just this weekend, Erdogan, was basically calling Netanyahu Hitler again, and the Jews needed to be exterminated. And James, we got the makings, brother, of a world conflict, and I think that the Iranian situation far outweighs a bunch of two spoiled brats in Russia and Ukraine that just want to fight over land. What we're talking about in Iran tonight is going to affect the world. That is going not to be a regional conflict. This will spill over and affect all of us. I believe it will, if it goes that far.
I think you're right. The Middle East is a place to watch. In the 2 weeks I've been gone, 2.5 weeks that we've talked together, Turkey has come unglued with street demonstrations against Erdogan, who appeared to be, unassailable at one point, and then he arrested his primary political opponent, the mayor of Istanbul, and things are just going wacko in Turkey. And nobody would have predicted that 3 weeks ago. And now the Iranians, the latest report, have loaded up all of their missiles, all of their underground storage, everything that they have, their entire inventory that's underground, they have reportedly placed on alert, and this, that, the other, and there's a lot of activity going on over and around Iran these days, and it could be interesting what happens there in the next couple weeks. And like you are suggesting, that is not going to be contained. That by its very nature is going to spread somehow, some way. And all of these things always have a full range of unintended consequences with.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. I could not say it better. And, it's funny. I do have to ask you a question about this, though. Why do you think, because other than Gateway Pundit, there was a article in Breitbart, a small one. I didn't even see this really discussed on Fox tonight. I haven't seen this discussed in the mainstream media. Now, the World Israeli News site is talking about it, but it's almost been hush-hush in the media. Do you have any inkling of why the media would not be really pushing this right now? Because to me, James, this is the story of the week, other than the weather and the earthquake killing almost 1,600 people and the tornadoes and the damage that we've had in the country. And we had a close call here today where I'm at. And but I'm telling you, man, this thing with Iran, it just seems like the media is just totally whiffing on it.
Well, I sort of have just really a bad feeling about a lot of this. I was just in part of this tour was in Nuremberg. Nuremberg was a city where the great Nazi rallies were held. The party rallies every year, that's where they would gather, the most German of all German cities. And we were on a tour of years before World War II. They started digging preparing places, especially in the old city, where they could store their art treasures. They were getting ready for war. And places to protect their people. And I thought, with this world being on the brink of an absolute nuclear catastrophe, when was the last time you were told anything about where the nearest civilian shelter is? When was
Never.
The last time the American people were prepared to survive a nuclear exchange? And I cannot remember that being discussed since I was a kid in school, when we had to hide, get under the desk and get away from the windows, and at least you went through the pretense of being able to survive. Our leaders have just totally, and I'll tell you, I say this with some regret, have abandoned everybody. If this thing comes to shove, our population is totally unprepared. Now, the elites in Washington have their places in Washington, D.C., a short helicopter ride away, where they can go underground and survive a nuclear exchange. They have left the rest of us to fend for ourselves. And when I was in Germany, even before World War II, they started thinking about the unthinkable. How can we guarantee that a part of our population will survive, like aerial bombardments and the new form of war? Our leaders have absolutely dropped the ball on all of that. And so, back to your original question, the media has fallen in line with that. I have heard nobody on either side of the aisle, regardless of political ideology, scream out loud, why aren't we getting our people ready for war? Now Russia, every year, they have exercises, and in Moscow, St. Petersburg, the largest cities, whatever you think about Putin, the Russian authorities are aware that a war could happen at any time, and at least they go through the motions of giving their people some idea of where to go if things go bad in a hurry. We absolutely in this country have no concept of that. And I lay that completely at the feet of the leadership in Washington, D.C., and I don't care which political party you're talking about.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm hearing, and look, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's troubling to hear that we're at this point, and do you believe that these mullahs would be that stupid? Because, James, it's mutual destruction at this point. Look, I was looking at a map. I noticed it this weekend in our conference. And I've always known Iran was a bigger nation than Iraq. Look, the last time we were over there was, of course, the Iraqi War, the Afghanistan War. We've not been in any major direct conflict since. There was some bombing issues in Syria with Trump, but those were quick. He got out. We didn't put troops on the ground. But we're dealing with a different monster in Iran than we could ever have dreamed of dealing with Iraq. And this nation is, I think, very serious about getting that bomb. They're serious about destroying Israel. They're serious about their hatred for America. But do you think that they would, as much as they hate us, do they also recognize that this is mutual destruction with them? And are you concerned that they're going to throw all that in the trash and just let it all hang out and roll the dice and see what happens? Because it sounds to me like you're concerned we're looking at a nuclear exchange here, possibly.
Well, here, let me roll out this scenario. I'm not really concerned about Iranian capabilities. I think they do have a huge capability to push a button, and they have, and I would almost bet that they have hundreds of cells in this country ready to go at a moment's notice to wreak whatever havoc they could inside the United States. So that's one level of threat. What I am talking about is let's say that the Americans just unleash just a total bombing campaign over Iran with the idea of wiping out their nuclear weapons program. Now then, that program is funded in large part by Russia.
Right.
And you have hundreds of Russian technicians buried underground with all of these very sophisticated underground facilities. Now then, the danger of the nuclear exchange comes when Putin says, don't do it. Don't go in there and destroy that. And the only card he has really in his back pocket is his nuclear inventory, right? His conventional force has been shredded in Ukraine, a very small country. And so that is what he has in his back pocket. And what I'm saying is if he would use that card and launch a nuclear salvo against this country that would hit the major cities, especially along the East Coast, our survival rate is non-existent. We have offered ourselves up as hostages, and nobody's saying anything about it. nobody in the press is saying anything about it. Maybe they're just afraid to broach the subject because they don't want to cause a wave of fear in the country, and certainly these people on the left that have just floated this idea that there's no danger out there from this sort of thing. You know, you're just going to be left to survive, my friend, and that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the unintended consequences.
Right. Well, I'm with you. No, buddy. I'm glad you're bringing it up, and it's funny. It's just funny. Me and you ain't talked hardly since you've been back, and it's so eerily ironic. There's no coincidences with God, of course, but I was talking about this very thing today, not so much the nuke angle, but I was telling the radio audience that we need to be very concerned about this Iranian story because it's not getting any press, and Trump basically told him this weekend if they continue down this path, he's going to bomb them, and that's going to bring other players to the table. You know that's going to bring, and I think it's a very concerning thing, and we need to be alert to it. And I'm with you, and I don't think we are prepared. I mean, you know, I've never in my lifetime thought about, you know, the fallout of a nuke, you know, what would happen if something hit, because we've got a nuke plant where I live. It's about 30 miles west of me in Oak Ridge. And I've always wondered what would happen if we had some kind of an exchange. That facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee would be targeted because it's one of the biggest producers of nukes material that we've got in the country. It's the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. But anyway, I just I find it interesting that the media has been silent about it. And, you know, Trump, other than Truth Social, in his press briefings, he's not really brought it up a lot today. He didn't bring it up today. Brought it up a little bit last week on Truth. But I think that he needs to address the nation about it, James. If it's that serious a threat, I think he needs to address the country. That's just my opinion. And we'll move on to something else. But listen, a couple of other things I want to ask you about. What is your opinion about Elon Musk right now? Look, he is coming under fire. We've got some video coming up at the end of the show tonight. Some of these idiot leftists that were out there protesting this weekend, and the violence against his Tesla companies are increasing. He said today that he has had 8,000 death threats, and that number may be low. I think it was more like 18,000. In fact, let me get that exact figure.
18,000.
18,000, exactly.
And yesterday it dipped to 17,000, and they were telling that you know, things are looking better. 17,000 death threats a day.
I'm going to have to up my game a little bit because I don't. If you're not getting death threats, you're not getting anything. So I need to up my game or something and tick some people off because Elon. It's a crazy thing, James. He was one of them just 4 years ago. He voted for Biden. He voted for Obama. He voted for Hillary. But because he's trying to help the country now, he's become the great Satan. Isn't that crazy? How crazy a nut world we live in?
It is. And I watched, what was it, Brett Baer had the Doge,
yes.
Elon Musk,
yeah.
and several of them.
The boys.
And I'm telling you, I was really impressed that these guys stepped away from you know, huge positions, and seemingly their goal is to keep the United States of America afloat. And you have all of these leftists that are coming out of the woodwork against that. Who can be against that? You know, who can be against making this government work like it's supposed to work and saving the taxpayers millions of dollars in this money that's just going down the sewer?
Totally agree. I totally agree.
But that's the country we live in. They don't focus on the money that's been saved or anything like that. They focus on these, you know, just these small stories where one out of a universe of stories where a person's denied or whatever, and they don't even look at the vast numbers of people over 115, age 115, of which there is nobody alive in this country that are drawing benefits.
I know. It's nuts, isn't it? It's just nuts.
It is absolutely crazy. And in my mind, it just goes to show how desperate, all of these people are. And the people that are really in support of all of this are not going to say a whole lot, But in my opinion, what Trump is doing is very popular with the rank and file. Who can be against saving money and making the government more efficient? Only the people that are profiting from it
are upset about it.
In the halls of Congress.
Yes.
Are upset about it.
Absolutely, buddy. And I'll tell you something else is the only people that are upset about the illegal immigration are the left. And 6 in 10 of Americans, that's the CBS poll. The Constant Bull Blank Network even came out today, and it shocked them. 6 out of every 10 Americans agree with what Trump's doing to the illegal aliens. And John Ossoff, the moronic representative from Georgia, the senator, and Georgia, you've got to correct this in 26. We've got to correct this because I don't know how Warlock and him got in there. But anyway, but he's out there today saying that was all Trump was doing was deporting immigrants. And I remind Mr. John Ossoff that he's not deporting immigrants, he's deporting illegals. There's a big difference, and there's always been a big difference. And I think the American people see it. James, do you think the American people are sort of tired of this leftist narrative like this, that we've just gotten sick of it and we don't even pay attention anymore to these, even the politicians, we don't even pay attention to what they're telling us. We're just understanding that the country's got to be fixed and we're okay with what Trump's doing. Do you think that that's happening?
Yeah, I think they're all in one big room singing to each other, shouting anti-Trump and anti-Musk slogans to each other in the same room, and the media is reporting that there's a groundswell of opposition to Trump when it's a bunch of leftists in the same room who's having their sacred cows gored that are crying the loudest,
Yeah.
And is reporting that as some sort of popular momentum, and I think it's all garbage. I think it's complete and total garbage. It's the kind of stuff that the mainstream media has been used to operating with, nobody checking them on it or standing up to them on it. And I think the majority of the people in the country are tired of hearing that stuff. And they're tired of judges saying that Trump cannot use a constitutional tool that he has available to him to get rid of violent Nicaraguan gangs. Are you kidding me?
Well, let me ask you something.
This together, and judges are saying you can't get them people out of our country. Who then can we get out of our country?
Well, let me ask you this, and this is just I know this is a legal question, but I'm curious. I know how I feel about it. I personally don't believe that these illegals are entitled to due process. And what I mean by that is they're not here legally. They're not citizens. You don't pass go. You don't collect $200. You don't get to enjoy the benefits of our system of government. And our Constitution, James, does not protect illegals. It's for the American people. And all this argument, I heard it tonight on Fox. It was sort of getting under my skin a little bit because Brett Baer was trying to get this panel to talk about, and there was a Democrat strategist on there, and she was decrying the fact that these illegals are not getting fair hearings and they're not getting due process before they're getting deported. I don't care. If they're here illegally, to me, you do not pass go. You do not have due process available to you. You're here illegally. You don't live here. You shouldn't come here to begin with. And I'm not going to find any sympathy in my heart. I don't care. It was this couple that had been married 35 years. They were here illegally all this time. They get deported. The media cried and cried and cried crocodile tears last week. Well, my question is, in 35 years, do you not think that's plenty of time that they could have went to a citizenship center and applied for citizenship and become legal citizens of the country? I feel like they could have done that. 35 years, I'm just common sense South Georgia boy, that's a pretty long time. They didn't have any intention of being here legally. And to me, I've got no sympathy for them, James. And I don't care, this idea that they can assimilate. None of them are assimilating. I'm sorry. If they're here illegally, that in itself, we start from that. If they're not here legally, nothing else covers you. I know that's a hardcore position, but that's how I feel.
No, I absolutely agree. If they come into the country illegally, we as the American taxpayer are not obligated to pay for the education of their children. We're not obligated to pay for their social security or their unemployment benefits or anything else. They are not entitled to those things. There is a way to be in this country legally, and all of this hue and cry about, well, you have all of these hardworking people. Yes, but there's a legal way for them to be in the country.
Well, if they're not taking it, though, James, that's the thing. There is a legal way for them to be in the country. And a majority of them, even the peaceful ones, even the one that's not raping, killing, maiming, assaulting, killing people with cars and robbing people and gang members and cartel members and bringing fentanyl in. Not that we, as Mark Twain used to say, I regress, but that's what most of them are doing. But even the peaceful ones, the 5 to 6% maybe that are just here for work's sake, I don't care. I cannot go to Mexico, James, even if I want to get a job down there and just say, hey, I'm just going to live illegally down there and not going to apply for citizenship. If they catch me, James, I'm not probably ever going to see my family again. I'm probably going to be killed. They're going to put me in front of a firing squad. In the Middle East, they're probably going to cut your head off. I challenge these people to do this stuff. And all these leftists that are screaming that this is so inhumane. Well, I tell you what you do. You go try this in another country and see what happens to you and see how inhumane that we are. No, we're being very humane. These people are very lucky that Trump he could be doing a lot worse to them. And Venezuela, look, the motive always gets down. Money is always the motive. The proof is in the pudding. When Trump's deporting them and he puts economic pressure on these countries, they cave like cards in a hurricane. And it's about money. And when he puts pressure and tells these governments, you need to take your people back or I'm going to tariff you into the Atlantic Ocean, they cave. They cave. And they know what they're doing is wrong. So that tells me, I got no sympathy for it. These people can get legal, James, if they want to. This is not rocket science. It's like getting your driver's license. You can't drive without a license in this country. If you don't want to drive, then don't go get a license. You don't want to live here in America, then, go live in your own country. But don't come up here living illegally on us because you're not entitled to do that. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, that's my view too. I am sort of I'm cognizant of the argument that we have this huge body of people that over time gravitated here and that they do work that other people wouldn't do and that they're hardworking. I mean, my wife taught in a school in the Washington D.C. area that was almost all Hispanic, and you couldn't ask for harder working people. I get that, but they have to go through the process if they want to enjoy the entitlements of this country, which is why they came here in the first place. Then they need to do it in a legal way. Well,
James, it's an insult to those that did. I've talked to some legal aliens. I've talked to people. I got a dear friend down in McAllen, Texas. I've been to the border 3 times. I've rode around McAllen, Texas with him. He came into this country. He went through the citizenship process. He did everything right. He got in line. He waited. He's a legal citizen now. He pays taxes. All this crap on the left about Elon being an illegal alien. For God's sake, the man's been a citizen of our nation for a while. He's done the right thing. And look, it's an insult not just to the American citizen. It's an insult to those hardworking Hispanics that are here legally. And, I understand the argument about, well, they work hard and it's jobs that nobody else would take. Okay, so be it. But there's a lot of people that are here legally that are in that boat that would work for those jobs too. I just think the way it is, then it's people. James, I've learned this through the years, and I think you understand where I'm about to come from with this. People ultimately do what they want to do. Okay, if you want to get legal, you'll get legal. You don't want to be here legally, you won't try. You won't make any effort to do it. And if you're here for nefarious purposes, you sure ain't going to do it. And I just think that what Trump's doing is draining this stuff out of our country. I'm all for it. I'm good. And I don't lay in bed at night shedding any tear for any family that's out there deported. I go back to what Tom Homan told the hack CNN reporter that tried to corner him about these families. And she said, well, what do you say about the people that you're going to break these families up? And Holman said, well, don't worry about it. We can deport whole families at the same time. That's how I look at it too. See, that's why McDonald ain't president, because you disown me. I'd be president in 4 days and I wouldn't have no more friends ever again.
No, we've, there's just a major maxim of international law. A country cannot claim to be a country if it cannot control its borders.
That is correct. That is correct, James.
And we have completely abandoned the concept of controlling our border in previous administrations.
No, I'm with you 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Buddy, it's always a pleasure. Listen, because you haven't been on a while, I may get you on again this week if you're around, and we'll give you like a double time on the McFiles to make up for that lost time you were cruising and snoozing on that cruise of yours, and we really have missed you. I really mean that. It's so good to hear from you tonight, hear your voice, and your wisdom is beyond words, as it always is. What is your one final thing? This lawfare about these judges, going back to what you mentioned about the judges, I don't see constitutionally how they have a leg to stand on, but the problem is, James, Congress is going to have to step in. Do you have any hope that Congress stops this stuff? Because I'm not really that sure that the Supreme Court's going to step in and do the right thing. Somebody's in Congress. We got the majority in House and Senate, and I understand that it just takes a simple majority to fix this. It doesn't take 60 votes. It's just a simple majority vote. You strip these lower federal courts of their power. You can do it in a vote. I don't understand why it wasn't done yesterday. And Ron DeSantis has asked that question. He says, y'all should have had this teed up. You knew it was coming. Trump was, what did you think the left was going to do? They did it before in 2016. In 2017, when he came into office, they're going to do it again. He said you should have already been ready for it, and we find ourselves with a flat-footed Republican Congress again. They wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, and it's not like you have a united front when you're talking about the Republican Party in Congress these days. There are some of them that for their own reasons are closer to Democrats, the left wing of the Democrats, than they are to the mainstream Republican Party. And that's a whole other problem. The problem with judges is that our country depends on a Judeo-Christian legal framework. And now your law schools are turning out all of these people, and the upper. And when I was in law school, we used to have this joke: the A students go on to be judges, the B students go on to teach law school, and the C students go on to practice law and support A and B.
That's well said.
I think there's a measure of truth to that.
No, I think there's a measure of truth to that too. That's awesome.
And what you have is this upper layer, which has leaned left now for decades, that has infiltrated these upper levels of these federal judgeships, and they lean left. And what they are going to do, they're going to make these rulings again and again that are so outrageous and out of step with common sense that they are going to jeopardize the entire legal framework of this country because they cannot act with integrity. They're acting out of their ideology instead of legal integrity.
That's so true, James. That's so true.
They jeopardize the whole system, the best legal system that this world has come up with. Or, well, it was that way a few years ago. And now it's careening, tilting badly to the left, severely to the left. And as a person that practiced law and loves the study of law and what it means to a society, we are jeopardizing the entire superstructure of our culture and of the great American experiment because judges are acting out of ideology instead of integrity.
Yeah, but I agree with everything you just said. There's got to be a way to stop that, though, because they're not there for their opinion. They're there to uphold the law. Period. And one quick question. This is an international question. What do you think about France? What they did to Le Pen? I think J.D. Vance has proven to be right. He got in their face here just a month ago. He told these European leaders, y'all are quelching free speech. You can either get with the program and enjoy the benefits and the blessings of the United States, or you can keep doing what you're doing. We're going to cut your money off. And what is it? A month later, you've got a populist candidate, a female Trump, when you get down to it, that wants to bring France out of the dark ages politically. And now they've got her under house arrest and a 5-year ban on her running for office, which would basically be the 2027 election, that she can't run now. And that was on purpose. It was all fair. And James, if this left gets them back into power here, and I've got something to say about that at the end of the show tonight. There's 3 big elections tomorrow. There's a Wisconsin Supreme Court election up in Wisconsin and 2 Florida House seats tomorrow. And people need to get out and vote. And they need to not sit on the sofa, because the left, if they get in power, this is what we're headed for. This is exactly what they'll do to conservatives here. Again.
Couldn't agree more. It's law. What happened to Le Pen was plain and simple lawfare. Not that I agree with Le Pen on everything and on all points of her program, but the whole idea that you can effectively eliminate political opposition by rendering them illegal as a process of law is a complete misuse of law.
Yeah. Do you have any idea? One quick question for you. You know why Trump endorsed Lindsey Graham? What was your thoughts about that?
Lindsey Graham is just one of those sort of slippery eels.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Maybe that Trump may deem to be useful in some future circumstance. I have all the trust in Lindsey Graham as I do, used car dealer.
Me too. Me too. I can. That's the only thing about Trump that just you cannot pin him in. You can't stereotype him because you'll think that he's doing something wonderful, and And I'm not saying that, him endorsing Lindsey Graham's the end of the world, but it does make you scratch your head because Lindsey Graham is undermining them at every turn, it seems like all the time. Maybe that's one of them keep your friends closer, your enemies closer kind of thing. I don't know. But
keep your enemies under the tent.
Yeah, keep your enemies under the tent, brother. That's right. Hey, buddy, listen, I got somebody coming up behind you. Listen, I'm going to let you go, but please hang loose this week because I want to get you back on. I got several other things. Keep an eye on this Iran situation for us. And if something breaks, we'll bring you on quickly. But I'll probably get you middle of the week again, okay?
That sounds good, and I'll be available. Just give me a call and let me know. I should be around the entire week here.
Now, I'm just going to say this before you leave. The next time that you take some lollygagging cruise, and we have to linger and languish under this left-wing crap in America, we're going to have an interaction and an intervention. McDonald, did not get an invitation. I am going to come see you. The Reds are playing. Baseball season is here, and I can't wait to get back to the Great American Ballpark with you and sit down and have a hot dog. But just hope.
I hope the Reds order a whole crate of bats from that MIT physicist.
Yes.
That designed these bats for the Yankees, and they're hitting home runs all over the place.
That's true. That's true. I'll agree with that, brother. Well, listen, God bless you, friend. We'll be in touch, okay? Thank you, Jeemes.
Okay. Blessings, Chris. Bye-bye.
Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house for him. That's one of the good guys. That is one of the good guys, and we're grateful for him tonight. Let me see if Leslie is available. And let me see. She was going to come on tonight to talk with us, too. We've been trying to get Leslie on for a while. She's been a little sick. We've got some things that we're going to talk about. We're probably not going to get to it all tonight because we're going to be out of here in about 20 minutes. I will say this while I'm waiting on Leslie. We had a scare today. My dear wife, Kathy, lives down south near southeast Alabama. And I was coming to see her. And I got here probably, it wouldn't have been 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And this lovely thing sprouted up. There was no tornado watch. There was a severe thunderstorm watch today, but they were not really expecting tornadoes. And two storms formed, one just north of our house, and then another one formed right downtown, about 5 minutes from where she worked. And that storm formed this afternoon. I wasn't even here 5 minutes, just missed it. If my travel plans would have been altered anyway, 5-10 minutes, I could have probably drove right into that. Sadly, 5 kids were hurt today at a school. It hit a school here in Dothan, and our prayers for those children tonight. But this weather's been volatile. James was telling me that they were in a bathroom last night, hunkered down in southwest Ohio from these storms, and it's been a very, very volatile start to the spring with this severe storm system. We're not even in the peak season yet. April and May is usually when it peaks, and things have been rumbling and they've been shaking. We had this earthquake over the weekend in Miramar and Burma. 1,600 people are dead, actually 1,700 now, and that death toll is going to go up, I'm sure. And come to what I'm hearing tonight is, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but there's a civil war going on in Burma. And if you can believe it, the supplies that are trying to be sent to the people of Burma to help the earthquake victims are not getting to them. Bangkok, 1 year ago. I'm going to throw this out for food for thought. We'll deal with this tomorrow too. Did you realize that 1 year ago, or less than that, in October of 2024, or June, I should say, June the 18th of 2024, Burma, or Thailand, Bangkok, became the first Southeast Asia country to agree to same-sex marriage. The streets of Bangkok were lined. We had a picture of it that we'll share with you tomorrow night because I want to get Leslie on here and let her talk with you a little bit about some stuff. But they were marching through the streets with this huge, you can see the image of it, this huge rainbow flag, just screaming that they had won a victory for same-sex couples. And less than 9 months later, those same streets that were being used 9 months ago to promote and applaud the legalization of perversion are absolutely, totally gone. They are looking like a war zone. It looks like some bomb has went off on those same streets. Those buildings that people were walking by are no longer there. I'll let you draw your own conclusions of that. I'm not going to draw any. I've got some conclusions, but that's what they are. It's not for certain. But the earth is shaking, folks. But I just want to thank the Lord. I've said all that to say I thank the Lord that God protected me today. It's been a weird weekend. It's been a weird weekend. And the crazy thing about it is I missed the weather in Atlanta by about 10 minutes today. I missed the weather. The same line that produced that tornado was coming through. It's a long line from Atlanta all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And I was traveling south, and 3 different cities, Atlanta, Columbus, and got to Dothan, got in the house. Just walked in the house when the alarm went off, sirens went off, and they said there was a tornado that had formed just north of us here, probably not even 5 miles. And then in the next 5 minutes, that other storm I just showed you was one that went through downtown. It was a separate storm, and that's the one that did the damage and hurt those kids. So, little hairy situation today on a Monday, but we're all good. Everything's fine. But it does speak to the time that we're in. Very volatile. All right, let's see if Leslie Millwee is going to come on this line. Let me change my guest, and we're going to talk to her, and then we'll do a video or two. Leslie Millwee.
Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Good. We're making progress. We're making progress. Good to see you tonight. How are you, buddy?
You too. Oh, I'm just watching the lunacy.
The lunacy is right. Well, baseball season's here, and me and you are baseball fans, so at least we can be happy about the spring in that sense. The tornadoes are also here. Hey, I do want to ask you about some things that are going on in the nation tonight. We hadn't had you on, so I'm glad you're doing better. I know you had some sickness, and we both have had that, and it's just our schedules have been sort of messed up to get you on, but we're grateful you're on tonight. What do you think about all this hate on the left? I thought this was the party of tolerance, wasn't it? Wasn't this the party that was supposed to be that we all get along and, it's just be civil to everybody? What's your thoughts on all this Elon hate?
Well, they don't have anything else to hate. They can't complain about eggs half the price they were 3 months ago. They can't complain about the way people feel like, almost 70% of the country says we're going in the right direction.
Yes.
So, I heard, I'm trying to think, I think it was Bill Maher this past weekend was talking to
Cuomo.
Newsom.
Newsom too, yeah, that's right.
Talking to Newsom and said, basically, you are the party that's on 80% of the bad side of America. Your party only, can relate. Only 20% of the people can relate. So I think that was a real awakening. I don't think Bill Maher is by any stretch of the imagination going to change parties or is conservative in any way. But you know what? God love him. He's got a brain, and he's not afraid to use it. So I'm watching Newsom flip-flop. But, they're in a tizzy because, like we talked about before, we wake up every morning at 7 o'clock and say, oh, my goodness, what did Trump do overnight that I've got to find out how great it is? So when everything is good, they have nothing. They have Jasmine Crockett,
I know.
Give me a break. And Beto. Did you see Beto and Tim Walz together?
Oh,
now, there's
goodness.
a pair.
Goodness gracious. Well, Leslie, I've got, Beto O'Rourke is an absolute loon. What bothers me with Texas is these pastors. because you had one of the leading black pastors in the nation, and I say he's a leading, he's not really in my book, but I know that he's a household name, but I watched these pastors stand with him side to side when he was running for governor of your state. Y'all came within a hairbreadth of having him as your senator.
Oh, that would have been a disaster.
And I'm going to tell you something. He is more radical than Bernie. And
I know he is.
And I just don't understand how these preachers can sit there with a straight face. Look, you got one pastor tonight, to his credit, he saw what was going on, and he prayed for Elon Musk's protection. And, there are some pastors that see it, some don't. But what do you take out about all this? Because it just seems to me that this is not rocket science, what we're doing here. I mean, Elon is trying to help the country. And look, I got Christian voices. I got Christian friends that are always, they don't trust Elon. They don't trust him this. And look, we don't know fully. I'm not looking to Elon for my spiritual advice, but he's trying to cut the fraud and the waste and the corruption, and he's doing us a service that should have been done 50 years ago. Because I'm going to make a statement. If somebody would have done this 50 years ago, we may not have the establishment elitism that we have in D.C. tonight, because it would have been cleaned out then, and you wouldn't have had this crap that we've had going on in D.C. and this country for nearly 5 decades.
And the lies that they're perpetuating.
Yes.
I heard a couple of Democrats talking about, you do know Medicaid is being cut. Well, clarify that. They are cutting people off the rolls that are bilking the system.
Bilking the system.
Period. And if you're doing that and you're 30 years old and you're on disability because you went to a slip and fall doc 5 years ago, I'm sorry. You need to get off your rear and you need to work like the rest of us and pay taxes. So, that's just one example. I think there are probably a lot of people that abuse Medicaid. Probably, I know I've heard in the past, just from my experience in healthcare, that 20% of all Medicare and Medicaid claims are fake, and they can be cut out. So imagine the billions and billions of dollars that would be. That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's terrible. It's terrible what the system has done. Listen, what is your thoughts right now? We had Jeemes Akers. You and him was on that panel with us that night back in the election. Good guy. And we need to do another panel soon. I love that night we did that.
That was fun.
That was fun. And even my brother never compliments me for nothing. We McDonald boys, we just rough. I get mocked and laughed at. But he actually called me up here a few months ago, and he said, "Bro," he said, "I forgot to tell you." He said, "I watched your election coverage," and he said, "It was the best out there." And I said, "What in the world?" I said, "Jesus Christ is coming. Please get in your caves, hide your kids. The world is ending. Armageddon is here." If my brother would compliment me on something like that, and I'm talking about my youngest brother, and I was like, "You actually listen to your brother's show?" Because they never do. He said, "Yeah, I listened." He said, "Y'all, that panel you had, they were excellent." And I bragged on y'all, and I said, "Yeah, they were." I said, "I thought it was the best coverage on the night." I said, "We stayed up with everybody till 3:00. But anyway, I do want to ask you.
Well, that's a compliment.
That's a very big compliment. It is. What is your thoughts about how the Republicans are flat-footed right now with these lawfare judges, Leslie? Because look, that's the only thing the left seems to have right now are these rogue judges. That's it. They've got nothing else. And God forbid these people get into power again. But we've got a chance to stamp this stuff out if we'll do it. But the Republicans are going to have to step to the plate in Congress. Trump can't do it all. He just can't.
No. And this is where I think John Roberts really needs to field his position. He needs to really shut this down, because you're in a situation where 642 judges can decide executive branch decisions. And that is ludicrous. I don't care if you're talking about the border, you're talking about anything. These people were not elected to run the presidency. And Jonathan Turley, I heard him this morning. I believe he was on the Faulkner Focus.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how crazy it is that any of these judges are getting their way with basically ruling the president. So I do think the Supreme Court is going to have to step in at some point and say, enough is enough. There are three equal branches and you're not it, you know? So I don't know if that will happen. I hope John Roberts has enough gumption to step up and
but
I think things are going to go to the Supreme Court anyway. Don't you think a lot of
I do know I do, but the problem with that, and it's not, I mean, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but the issue with the Supreme Court is that they become political. Roberts he don't like Trump. I mean, it's clear. And look, I'm not so sure Amy Coney Barrett ain't got some hidden angst to him. And I don't know what it is. I think that I've always said that he put her on that bench strictly for the abortion situation to get Roe v. Wade taken down. I think Trump, I don't think any of us expected it to happen during the Biden years. We were sort of thinking it would happen in the Trump years, and that's the way the Lord is. The Lord don't need a politician in office to do what he needs to do. But other than that Roe v. Wade case that she was strong on, Coney Barrett's been mixed at best. She's been a Sandra Day O'Connor to me. And I'm not so sure she ain't going to turn coat on him with this. So you can't depend on that 6-3 majority anymore. You've got a 5-4 at best. And really, look, the liberals ain't got to do much because they got somebody, they got these turncoats. And I got to say this about this before I'll give it back to you to chime in about this. Have you noticed that the Democrats never do this? In other words, when they put a justice on the bench, a Democrat president, they always vote liberal. They do not break rank on that bench ever. It's the freaking Republicans and their choices that always betray the country. They always betray the country.
Well, and we've talked about this before. It's amazing to me, no matter how ludicrous or over the top, they stick together like glue. They do not eat their own like we do. We literally, and I think in my mind, I have to say that's because we have political and Christian convictions and morals and values that when we feel strongly about something, and I think because we're on the right side, whether you're center right or alt right, I don't think it really matters. I mean, we stand up for our beliefs. Democrats are like a clan or, a gaggle of geese. They are going to chirp together. They're going to stay together. Whatever whatever the conference call at 5 a.m. says, here's your talking point for the day. The word of the day is, deplorable. Whatever it is, you'll hear it 80 times that day. They stick together like glue. And I wish Republicans had enough insight to know that if they did that, it isn't taking away from their beliefs or where they are in the whole spectrum. They just need to get things passed and keep Republicans in the mix. I think they lose sight of that. I think I did it one time, but I think going through the Biden administration and even the first Trump, I learned quickly, and I think Trump learned real quick too, what happens when you get people in there that are really not truly
totally agree.
Conservative.
Totally agree.
So that's what I think.
Well, that leads me to my next question with you. You're reading my mind. That scares me sometimes, Millwee. But what would be your grade for his cabinet? I give him an A+. I mean, look, I'm not a blind Trump supporter in the sense I'm not going to follow Trump off a cliff, but I will tell you, I have not seen one single thing in the coming close to 3 months. April the 20th he'll be in office. 3 months, April. And the 90-day mark would be probably May the 1st. So we got about a month and a half before he reaches his 100 days. I know the media is going to scream about his comments about having a third term. I don't care one way or the other about that. I think that he's got 4 years to worry about right now. Let's get these 4 years done, and we'll talk about that in 4 years. But I think for what I've seen so far, I cannot tell you how grateful I am for the people that he's put behind him. They're growing together. And no matter what this media is trying to do with this Signalgate crap and all this other crap that they're trying to throw up, they have done their jobs. I've read something tonight. You realize that Pete Hegseth was making almost, $18.4 million with books and his work at Fox, and he's not even making he's making $224,000 a year now. Dan Bongino was making $49.4 million was his net worth doing his radio and TV stuff and speaking stuff. He's making $262,000 now. You don't get people to do that anymore for the betterment of the country. But these people are losing their wealth. They're losing they're getting screamed at, cussed at, called every name in the book, called Nazis, everything in the book, known, all of them. Marco Rubio's doing a good job. Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. And you know what bothers me is some of this criticism is not even coming from the left. It's people on the right that they just got nothing better to do than to try to find fault and be critical. And I say this very, very calmly tonight, but I'm going to say it sternly, but I'm going to say it calmly. You know, if you think for a second that you can do a better job than get your carcass down to the voting booth, put your name in, run for office, and see if you can do any better job than these people can do. And if you can, then keep running your trap. If you can't, keep your mouth shut and pray for them. And pray for them. It bothers me when Christians do what they do.
I know. And it to me has been like no other cabinet in history in the fact that they all have each other's back. They all work together. Obviously, there's a huge relationship between Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth and Hegseth, and you know it's a no-brainer. I'm so excited about that. I don't like all the moves, and it's weird. I mentioned this to my husband. I can't explain what feeling I had, but when I saw Kristi Noem down at the prison in
El Salvador,
I thought that was kind of weird because I thought, you know what, she looks cute. She's down there in front of all of these, you know. And my husband looked at me and he goes, wow, I am so surprised you said that. I would think that you would support that 150%. I'm kind of surprised, and I can't put my finger on it. It just maybe because I've never seen anything like it before, and I just kind of had to shake myself and say, hey, that's a great thing. She's a beautiful woman that is bravely standing in front of murderers and rapists, and God love her for sending that signal and making that point. What a wonderful thing. I am not thinking about this. And I think where I got that idea from was Megyn Kelly was talking about she thought she was dressed inappropriately.
Oh, goodness.
You know, and I really don't feel that way. And I looked at it again and I told my husband, you know, you're right. I mean, that took incredible courage, and
it did.
You know, what an amazing testament that she's standing there. We're not going to take your crap, folks. You're going to this prison, and that was powerful. And I feel guilty that even crossed my mind. I'm going to blame Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly for that. But Leslie, what you're talking about in Megyn Kelly, look, I like Megyn. I mean, she's come a long way from 2015 and that first debate with Trump, but I will tell you this, the country is in that same state. We strain at gnats to swallow camels. People do that all the time. They will strain. I mean, who cares about her clothing? She was sending a message. It's the best place you can send a PSA to these illegals. Hey, knock your crap off. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to wind up here with these violent El Salvadorian prisoners, and you're going to be roomies. And we're not going to get, it's not going to be the Motel 6 like you were given under Joe Biden or the Hampton Inn. And we're not going to pay for your health care and your transgender surgeries, and we're not going to pay for your crap and your
everything.
Your food. and your plastic surgery and all your woke crap. We're not going to do that no more. No, you're going to wind up in this cage down here with these animals. And I think it was the best PSA she could do. And look, I've said this before, and I say it about Bondi, I say it about all of them. People are absolutely have this microwave mentality that they want everything fixed right away, folks. And this was not, it makes me mad too, Leslie, because this problem wasn't started overnight. It's been going on for 4 years. They are digging out of a 400-pound hole in the ground, gorilla, and it's not going to be easy. They're even, and look, what Trump's having to deal with these judges. You know, look, he's doing everything he can do, but he's only one man. And if the American public wants to sit back, I think it's the most horrible disposition to sit back and criticize something that you yourself would not get out there and do. And you know, again, I say it, if you're not going to be willing to be courageous and go out there and fight for your country on the front lines, because look, I'm on the front lines here. And I'm on this program every night. That's what I do. Been doing this for 7.5 years. And I get it. Look, criticism's part of the game. I don't mind the criticism. But I listen to the criticism sometimes. And it's from people that never lift a finger. Never lift a finger to help. Never lift a finger to do anything for the country. All they do is sit around and gripe about something. And that's what's going to be the death of our country, Leslie. It's going to be the death of our country.
They don't do their homework. They don't really know what they're talking about because, you know, that's really the first moment that I've had where I questioned anything and I thought, what am I thinking? This is fantastic. This, you know, we should all be supportive because I do think they're all doing God's work because they all took cuts in pay. Every single one of them.
Every one of them have. Every one of them have.
Musk is probably losing billions of dollars by doing God's work. And you're right. I wouldn't want to take any religious advice from him and quite frankly from Trump.
No.
But I'm not the judge and jury either.
But Leslie, you just said it. We're not the judge of their soul. That's God. Their spiritual life is their issue between God and them. What they're doing for the nation, we all should be applauding. And again, if you don't like what Musk is doing and you don't want the waste and the fraud and the corruption to be cut out of government and you're not wanting that, then I guess you would be unhappy about what he's doing. Right. If you don't like illegals being deported and you don't like our economy trying to get back on, and I hear all this same stuff about these tariffs. I've watched these weak-kneed people, they left gets on, and I saw a guy on NBC the other morning or this morning, maybe, or I don't know when it was, but he was whining that the tariffs were going to hurt his industry and all this crap. And then out of the same breath, he complained about unfair practices by the Chinese that had hurt his business for years. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So what do you do about the Chinese? I tell you what you do. You tell the Chinese, you tariff us, we're going to tariff you into the Red Sea. We're going to tell Canada the same thing. You want to inflict pain on our goods? You want to inflict pain on our services? Japan was charging us 700% tariffs on rice, Leslie. So what do we do? Who loses in that? Who loses in that? We do. So you and again, it's like a fog. It's like a spiritual fog that is on the minds of people. And we have got to shake ourselves free of this. You know, James was talking about this threat that's growing in the Middle East tonight with Iran, and you've got a possible confrontation coming between us and them. And to me, that's far more important to be concerning ourselves with than whether Elon Musk is some deep state elite plant. It's crazy the stuff people get bogged down in.
I know. And I'd say he's a middle of the road Democrat. I had a conversation and, you know, just like you said, it's like, oh, it took too long for eggs to go down. I said,
for God's sake.
What? And he lives in California, and he says, yeah, gas is still high here. I said, you know what? I just paid $2.34 for gas a
Yes.
gallon. That's the lowest rate I've paid in about 6 years.
6 years, exactly. Mine's $2.50 in Tennessee, $2.40 in some places. We can't, for whatever reason, and I'll let you go after this. I'm going to get you back on later this week, maybe. We need to do a panel soon. But it seems like we don't understand. We can't appreciate prosperity, Leslie. We can't appreciate the country. We can't appreciate when we're being blessed. And at some point, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's what I was telling them. I said, you really thought that Israel and Russia, everything, and Ukraine and everything was going to be fixed within a week? Did you really think that? I said, I can't wrap my head around how incongruent that is with reality. I just can't understand how they can think that way. And I think they're nitpicking because there's nothing else to harp on. But yeah, I mean, what a ridiculous notion. I mean, what's been accomplished in 2 months is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
I think it's been mind-blowing. And look, I caution our audience. There's going to be mistakes. Look, this signal gate was a mistake. Somebody screwed up. Okay, they screwed up. That happens. There's been not a president since George Washington that didn't make mistakes. People make mistakes. People do things that ain't right. And they do things that sometimes are not the best decisions. But again, we put him in power and we elected him to be the leader. And leaders have to make tough calls sometimes. They have to make decisions that not everybody's going to be happy with. You can't please 350 million people. For God's sake, we can't even please 6 people. You can't get 6 people to be happy about something. And look, I've learned this, and I guess it's why I'm so adamant about this in a way, because I've learned this in 7.5 years on this show. When I turn this mic on at night and I talk, 50% of the people out there are rah, 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 that's great, Chris. And I know there's 50% out there that are spewing, cussing, spitting, and I've just learned to take it in stride. These opinions are mine, okay? Right. Trump's decisions are his. We voted for him. We put trust in him. And we need to trust him to do the right thing. And if he don't, then, we just, as a nation, will deal with it. But the thing about it is, Leslie, I've not seen anything yet that he's doing overtly that has done anything to harm the country. He's done everything to help the country. And compared to what we had, for God's sake.
Oh, I know. And, Hillary just cannot stand to be marginalized. Do you love it? She calls up the New York Times. I got an editorial opinion piece for you.
Yeah.
I mean, she is so irrelevant. And I just, as Juanita loves to say, hi, Hillary, you're still never going to be president. I mean, that's all you can say. Thank God we dodged a bullet there, too.
We did, my friend. Well, listen, I want you to hang loose this week, and we've got some, I know we'll have some breaking news, and I wanted to bring you on because I hadn't had you on in a while, and I know our schedules have not mixed well, but I'm grateful to see and hear from you tonight, and please know we're going to come see you and talk, so we're going to get that location settled. We'll be in touch about that, but I appreciate you. And any final thoughts, anything you want to add before we say goodnight?
No, I'm with you. I'm going to give everyone an A. I think this signal gate, while I don't think it was a huge thing, it was a hiccup. It was an embarrassment. It shouldn't have happened. But with that said, you show me the perfect person, and I'll applaud them. So
there ain't none out there. And if you go back to every administration, I mean, if this is the worst that we're going to have to deal with, is somebody accidentally added some liberal loon bomb job to a chat, and we're going to lose our lunch over that. We're going to lose our lunch over Elon Musk and thinking that he's 666 and the Antichrist. Or we're going to lose our lunch over this crap that we lose our lunch over. People are, and Leslie, we got to grow up. I hate to be so stern tonight. I wish Christian people would grow the stuff up. and just mature and be mature, because the world, we know where all this is headed, okay? But we're not out of here yet. We're here. We're the salt of the earth. And if we can't have faith, and we don't exercise faith, and we don't exhibit faith, then the world is not going to exhibit faith, because they're going to look at us and say, well, that Christian bunch claims they know God, and look at these. They're running for the hills and saying all this crazy loons bomb stuff. We're no different. We're no different than MSNBC sometimes on the right. We ain't.
I agree.
All right. That's my sermon for a Monday night.
No, I agree. I think it's the God's honest truth, and I'm proud of these people too, finally coming forward. Like, was it Morgan Wallen that walked off the stage from Saturday Night Live this weekend?
What was that about?
That sent a message. I think he was just over them. I think he was just, and that's finally glad. I'm finally glad people are standing up. But anyway,
all right, buddy.
Great to talk to you.
You too. We'll be in touch, and I'll be in touch with you.
Sounds like a plan. Okay.
Love you, honey. Bless you, Leslie.
Love you.
Leslie Millwee, everybody. Put some fire in that house. So grateful for her tonight. We got a ton of videos, but I'm not going to get to them tonight. I think there was one I wanted to play you, and take a few of your comments. If you've got a question, speaking of these, speaking of the tariffs, by the way, this is the figure right here. Dan Bongino, $4.9 million in 2024. You know what he's going to make now this year? $221,000. Pete Hegseth last year, his salary with Fox and speaking was $2.3 million. You know what his salary is going to be? $256,000. They aren't in it for the money. I believe fully they are in it for the love of the country. Now, you ain't got to believe that. But these are patriots. And we need to pray for them. And again, if you feel like you can do a better job than they're doing, then run. Run for office. Get in there. Do your thing. Because the fact of the matter is, folks, they're dealing with a mess right now. And they're dealing with forces that do not want them to succeed. Trump does. But the majority of the American people do too. But that minority, that 20 to 30%, they're the loudest. And they have a lot of power, sadly. But our prayers for Hegseth, Bongino, and the whole apparatus. Here was Carolyn Levitt. I'll play this right here. And we got some wild stuff to talk about tomorrow night.
Look at the unfair trade practices that we have. 50% from the European Union on American dairy. You have a 700% tariff from Japan on American rice. You have a 100% tariff from India on American agricultural products. You have nearly a 300% tariff from Canada on American butter and American cheese. This makes it virtually impossible for American products to be imported into these markets, and it has put a lot of Americans out of business and out of work over the past several decades. So it's time for reciprocity, and it's time for a president to take historic change to do what's right for the American people, and that's going to take...
And that's exactly what Trump's doing. So, if you don't feel the warm heebie-jeebies about the tariffs that he's about to unleash holy hell with, April the 2nd, he said he was going to do it April the 1st, but it's April Fool's tomorrow. I shouldn't have told you. I was going to do something tomorrow night. I was going to come over here and tell you I quit. And then say, April Fools. Chris ain't quitting. Chris ain't quitting. I don't care how many we got. We ain't quitting. We ain't quitting. We're going out of here in a cloud of glory. And a dust of glory. She's right. Those are the tariffs we're being hit with. But when we strike back and say, okay, you're going to do this to us, we're going to do it to you, then all of a sudden Trump becomes Hitler. And Trump's going to kill the economy, and Trump's going to kill America. And she said it absolutely right, folks. These things are putting industries out of business in our nation, and people with manufacturing jobs, we can't even take our products into those nations to make any kind of profit, but yet we're supposed to sit back and say we aren't going to do nothing about that. Don't count on it. We got a new sheriff in town, and it ain't Joe Biden. And if that gets under your little uneasy skin, it's just going to get under your uneasy skin. I tip my hat to President Trump for being brave enough to do it, because that's got to stop. And if Canada wants to get on board, drop you 300% tariff. Japan wants to get on board, drop you 700% tariff on rice. If India wants to get on board, drop those tariffs. I think Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank said it right. He said none of us should be tariffing each other. We should be, if we truly want a free global market, if we want an equal and equitable fair market, then none of us tariff anything, and we all work together fairly and let the world go round. What was that old song? What the world needs now is love, sweet love. What the world needs now is no tariffs. We'd get along with everybody. Where's Rodney King when you need him? Can't we all just get along? You see, the problem is Japan and Canada and India and all these other nations, they want to stick it up the butt to America and let America get along with that. And that is going to stop, folks. It's got to stop or we're going to be bankrupt. So, just thought I'd share that with you. Talk about that more tomorrow night. Ho, 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 ho. Trying to see if I want to play one other video before I let you go here today. You talking about the crazies? We're going to talk about this tomorrow night. They had the Tulsa meltdown over the weekend. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Liberalism is a mental disorder. This is how the Tulsa, where am I going? The Tulsa haters, this is the best they can do. The Disco Duck to I Hate Tulsa to the Disco Duck video. What do you call that? The shuffle? That's your nation. I've got another video we're going to show you tomorrow night. That's the state of our nation. That's the state of our nation, folks. All right. I got 6 minutes. Elaine said, I still have the option to tell you I'm pregnant. Elaine, that would have been perfect. I should have brought, Elaine, you blew it. Oh, I could have brought a pillow, put it under my shirt tomorrow night. I forgot about, that would have been priceless. Good one. That's a good one. But Chris is not pregnant. Oh. We have to break that duck outfit again. That's a good one, Elaine. That's a good one. That's a good one. Roger says, I give Waltz a D. Roger, I don't know if that's over what he did with the signal thing. Look, Waltz made a goof. I like Waltz. He's not perfect. Brad Johnson, I think, was on to something. Him and Ratcliffe seem a bit over their head right now. But, look, we got to give them some time, folks. We got to give all these people some time. I mean, I don't think you can give anybody a grade right now. I mean, we are only 60 days in. We're not even 90 days in. So I would just be patient, Roger. He made a mistake. But it's not the level of mistake the media is trying to make it out to be. And the sharks are in the water. And by the way, Chris Coon says that y'all are too dumb to know where Greenland's at. on a map, the congressman, the liberal, that's rich coming from a party that don't know whether there is only two genders. Today is supposed to be Trans Awareness Day, I think, or something like that. But we've got a lot to talk about tomorrow night, so we'll save it for then. I'm going to say goodnight to you. Anyway, and Laura, we love your country too. And we're not talking about the people. This has nothing to do with the people of Canada. We're talking about business practices, though, by the government. It's nothing personal. Never been personal with Canada to us here in America. But the leadership has got to come to grips with the fact that they're going to charge us 300% tariffs on goods going into their country. They cannot expect us not to reciprocate that. I mean, there's no way. You wouldn't want, if that was reversed and America was charging 300% tariffs and you were not charging us anything to do business with us, Canada wouldn't like that a whole lot. Neither would Japan. Japan wouldn't like it if we put a 700% tariff on their rice. This is nothing personal. This is business. And business is business. It has nothing to do with us loving or not loving your country. I love my country. We're not at war with each other. Nobody's declared war. All Trump is trying to do is even the playing field. And if even in the playing field makes Canada upset, and it makes Japan upset, and it makes Europe upset, and it makes other nations upset, Chris ain't shed no tears. And we're grateful to have you, dear. You know you're a dear friend of the show, and we don't mean that in any kind of angst or any kind of malice, but I will tell you, it's a business situation. We've got to be fair. There's got to be fair equity about these tariffs. And again, I think Kevin O'Leary said it from Shark Tank the other night. I think the most sensible thing I've heard about these tariffs yet. And look, there's people that love President Trump that don't like the tariffs. Stephen Morris, former economic advisor, was on Brett Baer tonight, and he said, I don't agree with these tariffs because nobody wins. That's what O'Leary said. Nobody wins. Nobody's going to win in this. But if one party is sticking it to the Americans and expecting America to take it anymore, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And this mayor up in Ontario, Ford, basically saying he's going to inflict as much pain on Americans as possible. Well, bring it on. Do it. It ain't going to end well for either party. We don't want that. We don't want that. It's nothing personal. And I tried to say this last week about you Canadians up there. Y'all are taking a lot of things Trump's saying as personal. It's not personal. He loves the Canadian people. We love the Canadian people. We have no axe to grind with Canada. We have no axe to grind with any nation. But there's got to be fairness. There's got to be fairness. And really, that's all we're asking for on this business level. But anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. Susan says, Trump wants to stand up for our nation. Previous administrations have condemned our nation. That's very true. That's very true. Good to see you, Darlene, tonight. Good to see you. Well, we got any more questions? Look, I've got a lot more to talk about, but I'm going to save it. Join me on K-Star Radio tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. You'll hear some of this by radio. We'll be back in the morning, Bible study time at 10 on the Faith Network, and we'll be back here tomorrow night. As of right now, I'm not sure who we've got tomorrow night. Oh, I know what we do. I've got a pre-recorded interview we may play from Alice Linehan. She talks about the Department of Education, another department change. And her discussion on education is going to maybe shock you a little bit, how she feels about what's going on with the dismantling of the Department of Education's interesting stuff. But Alice is one of the most versed people that we've got, that she's part of the Women Watchmen on the Wall and Empowered. It's an Empowered, they call it empowered.com, but it deals with making parents and making people aware of things going on with agendas that has to do with your kids in school. So we may play that interview tomorrow night. I don't know what else we got this week. I'm just taking this day at a time. Whatever the case, I can 100% guarantee you one thing. McDonald will be here. It will be here. I saw something the other day. This is Believe Nothing and Trust Nothing on April the 1st, tomorrow. Just about like every other day of the week. Believe, my mom used to say what? Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. And that's about where we've gotten to in this country. We love you guys. Canada, we love you. We love all of you. Japan, we love you. We got nothing but love for you. But it's going to be, it's equitable. It's equity, fairness. People can't handle that. You know, I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. I'm with Trump on this. I'm with Trump. I am totally with him, what he's doing. Because it's not fair for American businesses and American manufacturers to go bankrupt because other countries are greedy and they want to impose unrealistic tariffs on our goods and services, and yet we can't charge, we're not charging them for those goods to come into here. That's not fair. Nobody would want that. Nobody would do that. You couldn't do that on a personal level and survive, and you can't do it on a national level and survive either. All right. I've said my 2 cents about that. Did you enjoy the show tonight? Put some fire in that house. Thank you, Leslie Millwee. It was good to hear James. Wasn't it good to hear him back again here? You know, James is the kind of guest when he's not here for a while and then he comes back and you hear him. He lets you know why you missed him while he was gone. So we're glad that James is back from Europe, and it's good to have him on the show. He's always a great interview. We love you guys very much. We appreciate all of you. Pray for your country. Before I leave, Florida, listen to me. You got an election tomorrow. You need to treat it like it was life or death, because it is. You got 2 House seats up. But I'm really speaking to the Wisconsin folks tonight. You've got an election for the Supreme Court. Do not take this election on your sofa, sitting down. Get out to them polls and vote as if you're voting for president. If that Supreme Court in Wisconsin goes left, they're going to gerrymander those districts. And in 2026, we could very possibly lose the House. Because that's what the Dems are pushing for right now, because they're salivating to get back in power, folks. Because if they get back in power in that House, it's over. Everything Trump will have accomplished for 2 years will be stopped. Subpoenas, investigations, impeachment. It will go back to what he went through in 2016 to 2020. And it will not be a good time for this nation. Wisconsin. You got an election tomorrow. Do not go the way of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania let a state Senate seat go to the Dems. Had not been Democrat since 1978 because nobody voted. They had 28% turnout. Republicans didn't even go, or the 28% that turned out, Republicans didn't even make up 5% of that. Wisconsiners, listen to me tonight. Listen to the Mac man tonight. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. You got a big election tomorrow. You need to get out to those polls like your life depends on it, because it does. We'll talk about it tomorrow. K-Star Radio, Talk Radio, K-Star Talk Radio, 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 3. May the Lord bless you tonight. If you got something out of the show, put some fire in that house. We're grateful you've been with us tonight. Have a good one, everybody. Have a good night. See you back here tomorrow. Thank you, James and Leslie. Good stuff tonight.